Today, my guest, I've personally seen go from 0 to 100,000 followers in less than 12 months by posting value-driven content. He's the founder of High Value Coach, which helps coaches build a business on Instagram and sell high-ticket services. Last year, April, he was at 0 with his coaching business. Today, he's generating over 100K in revenue and 55K in cash collected, and that's scaling rapidly. The guest today is the legend that is Harry Needham. Harry, thank you for joining me, mate. I appreciate it. I can't believe we've actually not spoken on video, have we? I think I remember jumping on what was that other social media?
Oh, what, the one that came and went in like a few months?
Yeah, and everyone went mad for it.
Clubhouse.
I jumped on that for 5 minutes. I think that's the only time I've really spoke to you, mate. I know we've DM'd a few times, but I'm very grateful to have you with me today and whoever's listening, because they're going to get tons of value. Yeah, I really appreciate it, mate. I've seen your journey, from the last year. Started at a similar time, I think, with the carousel community.
Yeah, give or take.
You smashed it, mate. Absolutely smashed it. So I think let's just give people an insight on what you've done, a bit about your background to start with, and then we can go into your program and what the things that you're doing now. I think that'd be great. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
So where did it all start? I'm sure I read somewhere that you was an architect, right? You was going down the architecture route.
Yeah. It's a long story, but I'll keep it as short as possible. But yeah, in essence, when I was younger, I played a lot of football. And I think you played football as well, didn't you? I think.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah. So I used to play football as well myself. Played at quite a decent level, professional clubs for the county and other things. And for all my life, I thought I was going to be a footballer. And I always needed to have a plan B. And the plan B was to be an architect. And that was something I was always interested in. My dad built the extension on our house. It took about 10 years, but he wanted to do it on his own, but I helped him do it. And so kind of from a young age, I was interested in architecture. Long story short, went to university. Football didn't work out, clearly. Went to university, studied architecture, really enjoyed it. It was long hours up till 3-4 in the morning getting things done, which really helped me to kind of build my work ethic. Went in and got a job. Hated it, to be completely honest. And I left the job in 3 months. To cut a long story even shorter, within the time I was at university, I was testing out and just kind of experimenting with Instagram. I'd always hated social media up until that point. I was, I don't know what it's called, but where you're an introvert in some areas, but an extrovert in others, whatever it's called. I'm that person. And when it comes to social media, I'm an introvert. And so I didn't like Instagram, but I was using it alongside my studies to just get inspiration, find ideas, and kind of use it for that kind of that reason. Eventually, I caught the bug and decided to start making content. Started posting content around some tech, desk setups, and just basically random stuff like that. It was a theme page, so it wasn't my content. Then decided to get a camera, start shooting my own stuff. So I started making my own content. I scaled this theme page, desk setup page to 30,000 followers within the first year. Made a whole bunch of mistakes. But then I really caught the bug for Instagram marketing, growth, and just that side of things. Anyway, in terms of the architecture job, I left the job, but I left the job because I was able to land my first social media client off the back of my success from this first page that I had built. And so I kind of used that as a bit of leverage to land my first client. And they were paying me about two grand a month, £2,000, which was crazy at the time because it was paying me, more than my architecture job, but for 5 hours of work for the month, pretty much. And it was just that's kind of when my eyes opened to the kind of world of online business, courses, coaching, agency model, all those sort of things. Anyway, a year passed. I went from 0 to 100,000 followers on my new personal brand page in a give or take about 9 or 10 months, all organically. But I got to a stage where I was doing too much: content creation, social media, management, coaching, ebooks, courses, just everything, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I got a mentor, a high ticket mentor in about March 2021, and my income at the time was probably 5k per month, which was a decent amount for me, especially considering my age. But yeah, he introduced me to the high ticket model. So I then transitioned into a high ticket coaching offer, which I launched in April 2021, so a month after. And my income literally straight away went from 5k per month to 20k per month in the first month in pounds. And then obviously now fast forward about a year and a half. We recently done, we're consistently doing about 55k cash collected, give or take 50 to 60, on course to hitting 100k cash collected months within the next few months. And we've done 100k or just under 100k rev this month as well. Got a team in place, systems and everything else. And yeah, that's kind of that's the short version, believe it or not.
I like it.
That's kind of the journey.
Sound so much to unpack there, man. So much. So listen, right. Obviously, we'll get into how you've done the high ticket side of things. I do think that's important.
Yeah.
But one of the things that jumped out to me, I never knew you had that desk setup page. I never knew this about you. I never knew this. So you leveraged what you'd done by putting the grafting on this page. You didn't know why or where it was going to lead, but you'd put all this effort in, grew it, and then you was leveraging that page to win clients. But obviously the pricing and things like that, you didn't have a clue, right? You was just winning clients.
Yeah,
I did not know this. Know this. So what would you do? Just reach out to them and say, hey, like, what type of people was you going after?
Yeah, well, so this is the thing. So it actually was more of a more to do with the network of people I had around me. So again, it's a bit of a detail I missed out. It's probably quite an important one, but at the time at university, I had to be making money. I had to get a job in something. And because I had experience in football and sports, I landed like a coaching job, like basically coaching kids on playing football and doing that type of thing. But I had two of those jobs. I had one at one company and one at another company. And my wife, girlfriend at the time, but wife now, was working at this other company in like the office, the head office. And she found out that they were getting like leaflets designed and like posters designed. But the guy who was doing it, let's just say he wasn't very good. Right? And she showed me what he was doing. I was like, oh, I could do better than that. I could use my skills that I've learned from architecture and from online. I could do better than that. Anyway, so I actually started off with them doing leaflets and posters. And it was like, I was getting paid maybe, I don't know, a tenner for like a leaflet or like a poster and making about 200 quid a month, which at the time for me as a student was like massive. That's when like 2 years had passed. Then I had in that time made this page and I just went to the guy and said, look, I can see your socials. I can see they're not the best. I can see there's a lot you're leaving on the table. This is what I've done for myself. I think I can help out and do something similar for you guys. And it was that kind of authority I built by, like you said, putting the graft in private, that he was then like, well, we trust you. You've done
no-brainer.
It's exactly, it's a no-brainer. And he said, how much? And I didn't have a clue. I was just like, oh yeah, $2,000 per month. And I had to think about it. And then they got back to me and then I was like, yeah, we'll do it. And honestly, that was that moment when you're just like, I can't believe what's just happened. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it was just that was the turning point. And that changed everything.
That just opened your eyes, right? You're like, damn, yes. I can make this a thing. What was calling you? Because obviously you're going down the architecture route, but something must have been calling you to do this thing on the side. So I think sometimes people get so hell-bent on the direction and they kind of might not listen to that voice, right? They might be like, oh no, I haven't got the time, or something must have been calling you back then.
Yeah. It was, to be completely honest, and I actually filmed a video on this recently. It's not been released, but a YouTube video coming soon. And basically I think that what a lot of people do and the mistake they make is they put they label themselves with a certain identity. And for most people, they label themselves to their job, right? So they will say, I am an architect. I am a doctor. I am a builder. I am this. I am that. And it's like, and realistically, like, you can't really label yourself with those things. What I realized was actually I need to label myself differently to be able to pivot. And instead of being an architect, I am a creator. I'm a perfectionist. I'm someone who wants to build things. I'm someone who wants to have an impact on the world. And then I realized in that moment that, I don't have to do that through architecture to have that identity. I can do it in another way. And so it was kind of that idea of, there were certain parts of the architecture world that were, perfect for me. The creative part of it, the designing, the building, and creating something and seeing it actually come to life. But then actually going out into the world and actually getting a job, the reality is, as an architect, you don't get that until like 20 or 30 years down the line. And for me, it was like, well, I'm not waiting 20 or 30 years to enjoy my job, to enjoy what I'm doing. I've got to find something else. And it was a tough pill to swallow. Literally, since my childhood, I was growing up thinking that's what I was going to be. That is who I was. That's who I was going to become. Even my parents were like not sure about it. My wife was like, "Are you sure?" Even when I said to her, "Oh, I'm starting this Instagram page," the first one, she was like, "It's a stupid idea. What do you think you're doing?" So I had all those things to kind of work through as well. But it's one of those ones of when you just make your mind up, it's like, doesn't matter how long it takes, you're going to make it work regardless.
100%. Can I just say politely, fuck mum and dad and the wife?
Yeah.
And I mean that with love. Like,
Yeah,
I
100%.
remember when I quit my personal training, when I was a personal trainer and I went into sales, the fear they had, like the fear they had based on how they see things, but deep down, right? You know what you can do. You know what you're about to do. Because when you make that decision in your head anyway, you've burnt is it burnt the boats? You burnt that, like, I ain't going back. So if there were people like being held back by other people's opinions, their opinion is based on their own fear and their own worldview. Like, and they care for you, right? They're worried for you. But if you know you can go and do something, go and do it, man. Go and do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you started the page, and your page started blowing up. Like, I remember you doing the carousel, using the carousel game, right? We all was building these carousels, and you were scaling so rapidly. Because I think you actually started doing them, or I noticed you doing them after me, and you just carried on going, like, and you just scaled rapid, like non-stop. Was you winning? Is that around about the same time you hired the high ticket coach, or how long into that journey did you?
Yeah, no. So it was actually to actually put some dates to it. So I think it was March 2020 was when I started officially with that personal brand page.
Really?
Yeah, it was March 2020.
2020.
Yeah, so it's quite a while ago now.
Yeah.
Two and a bit years ago. So March 2020 was when I started the page. And so in the period of March 2020 until about December 2020, that's when I grew the page from 0 to 100K. And I didn't have any coaches, or I didn't invest in myself in any kind of way within that period of time. And to be completely honest, that's a mistake. That was a massive mistake for me, and I've realized now that, for everyone, whether it's on a scale of 100,000 followers or if it's on a scale of 1,000 followers, the point remains the same. Everyone has like an opportunity window, and it's like your window comes up, and you can get windows come up again, but sometimes there's a better moment to do something. Sometimes the moment's passed. And for me, it's like, if I knew what I know now when I was at, say, 30,000 followers, honestly, where I could be now, I'm kicking myself, because I realized how much I'd left on the table by not investing in myself sooner. And I think there's parts to that. It might be an ego thing. It might have been a thing of, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting 1,000 followers a day. I don't need help from anyone. I'm going viral. I'm doing this. But again, there's all parts to that and components that needs to be kind of looked into. But the moral of the story is I got the mentor in the following year. So about a year after I started the page, when I then got the mentor. But that was more to help with the business side. So the content side, the Instagram side, like, I understood it, clearly I understood it. I knew how to kind of play the game and kind of get the growth, but I didn't know how to then turn that into a business, how to turn followers into clients, essentially. And that's kind of what I've been crafting and working on over the past, since that time. And kind of gotten, fairly good at that as well now, and so the next thing is, what next? And when that's building a team, it's being a leader, and that's what I'm now investing in and improving on, and invested in sooner rather than later with everything.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I also left coaching, like being coached, so long. Mine was definitely ego. Like, I thought I was not a better, but I think I knew it all, and I'm just so humble now. But it's the opportunity loss, right? You lose so much time. I do think the biggest challenge is, and I don't know if you're willing to share this, but one of the biggest challenges is actually knowing who you can trust to coach you. How did you make that decision? Because I think that is there will be the ego side, but I also just think there's a lot of charlatans out there. There's a lot of people have probably wasted their money on 2 or 3 courses already. How did you make that choice?
It's a good question. So I think that the way I personally done it, I'm not necessarily recommending this to other people, but the way I personally done it, it's the only thing I can speak about, is my experience. But the way I done it was, there's a few things that I care about. And one of the things I care about the most is like someone's values, and like, just, are they a decent person? Are they a decent guy? Are they a decent girl? Like, that's what I care about. So I don't care if someone's doing 500K a month, $1 million a month, 20 billion, like whatever it is. What matters to me is like, okay, well, what do you care about in life? Do you care about having a family? Do you care about your morals? Do you care about sticking to your word? Do you care about doing what you say you're going to do? And kind of all of those things. And for me, it was more a case of I made my decision based on like philosophy and values first, before I then started looking into what are their results, what's their process, what's their method, does that align with me as well? So it was more a case of, do I trust them from a philosophy, from a value perspective first? Do I like them? If I don't like the person, I'm not going to invest in them. Can I see myself having a beer with them? It's probably another question I ask. If I can, then I'm more likely to then, jump on and do
I love
something.
that question, by the way.
Yeah. But then also, of course, once you get past that stage, it's okay that they're a good guy, they're a good girl, but do they actually have the substance? Do they actually have the results? That is then obviously then making sure you do your research, you look at testimonials, you look at not just the big numbers and the wins, but if, for example, there's a testimonial, where did they start? Where are they now? What were they struggling with? Is that similar to what you were struggling with? And I think that I know for myself, sometimes I've struggled in my own business to communicate that through testimonials. And so what I always do for myself now is, if I want to find out more about a coach, then I will ask them. I won't kind of make assumptions. I will go and ask them. I'll say, oh, this testimonial, tell me a bit about a person. And I think a lot of people are afraid, let's say, to be sold to. And so they don't do the research. They don't go and ask. They don't go and jump on a call. And then what happens is then they just make an assumption, jump on a call with someone, then just buy it because it feels right. Then they get burnt. So I think people need to kind of understand that you are going to get sold to. People are going to try to sell to you, but not everyone's bad. As long as you can, only make that decision on your own terms, right? And you're not just kind of doing it for the sake of it, then it's fine. Because there's people like myself, for example, we only sell to people who we can help, and it seems like, well, you should do that anyway, but it's like, but not everyone does, and that's an issue. And so I get the friction people have, but still getting on a call, finding out about someone's program, like I think it's important to get that first-hand experience of how they handle things and that person themselves before you just kind of make a commitment, kind of like on the fly, in a sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think with the some of the mistakes that I made is normally when I've bought something like that, is when I'm in pain, like extreme pain, and I'm like, I need to find the solution, and then you'll get gassed on like the pitch, and that's when you can make a knee-jerk reaction. And I've learned that with hiring as well. I made a mistake hiring before, where it's like you hire for pain, and then you make a bad decision, or it's not even the person, it might just be you weren't ready. So yeah, definitely don't do it from a pain point of view. Are you willing to share your mentor? Yeah,
of course. Yeah. I've had two actual proper mentors. I've invested in a few little online courses, but more like for research, and didn't really give me much, but more like just seeing what competitors are doing. And my two mentors, my first one was a guy called Trey Cockram, who's based in the US. Very good guy in terms of his values, his methods, his philosophy. He's he's a business coach, but the way he teaches is more based on more like how to think, how to kind of look at tasks, and how to think in a more of like a business owner as they would. And that was my first investment. And then my second investment, which was a mastermind this time last year, was with a guy called Bastian Slot, who you might know of, or a lot of people listening might know of, but he's a guy who does like 500k per month, who does like the big numbers. But that was more of an investment for the systems, for the back end of the business, and getting those like SOPs in place. And both of those investments have massively paid off. So definitely recommend those two for that reason. But definitely now I'm sure you've had this for yourself. Once you invest in someone, you find out how maybe the industry does it, or how they do it. You do it, it works, then you find gaps. You're like, oh, now I can put my spice into this. Now I can 100%. Make it my own. And that's kind of where we're at now. We've built an amazing system for ourselves, but it's the good parts of what they taught, but with our own style as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is great about investing in yourself, is you can get the proven formula, and you learn it first, and then you can apply it to yourself. You can't do it the other way. You can't like do your own thing and then try and do a proven. It's learn the formula first, do the work, find the gaps, then change it. And it's worked well for us.
Listen, that is so golden. That's golden. I tell you why that's golden, because sometimes there's a balance between being coachable and doing the work, right? but then also how do you then put your bits on it? So for example, I don't know how you find, but like how I sell completely different to how a lot of these, like I'm in an agency mastermind, for example, and it's all very like this guarantees and this that. I don't sell with a guarantee. Like I will just tell you, you can lose your money, and if you can't be like you from an ads point of view, you can lose. I don't do the whole guarantee thing because it just doesn't align with me, because it doesn't feel right. I know it works, I know it's proven, so there is a balance of like making sure you understand the systems, but then if something doesn't fit, or you feel there's a gap and you can squeeze and do something different, you still have to put your bits on it, right? You have to do it your way. It is a balance though, because you have to still be coachable. So I'm always torn with that. You have to kind of just make the right choices that are good for you. So let's break down your program. I want to break this down because I know there'll be people going, Jesus, he's gone from 0 April 21 to 55k cash collected now, 100k revenue. Like, how is this guy doing this? How does he do it? So let's start from the beginning. How did you launch it? How did you go about launching the high ticket?
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably going to be the most underwhelming answer. But you know, the way that I do things anyway, and the way I've learned as well, is simplicity scales, complexity fails. You know, and so when it comes to like launching or any kind of like crazy marketing campaigns, or you know, of course there's definitely a benefit to doing that, but you know, the benefit of doing that is when you actually know what you're doing. And so when you're first starting out, like you don't know what you're doing, so you just have to kind of take imperfect action. So for me, launching it just involved talking about it in stories, doing a mission post, kind of talking on DMs, getting sales calls booked, and selling, and just kind of like fumbling my way through the process to begin with. And that's kind of the, literally that's kind of how I launched it. Obviously now we have a system in place in terms of what stories we put out, what content we put out, the type of content, the DMs we have, the way we generate leads, the type of leads, the sales call, the sales process, like that's all systemized now. But from the very start, it wasn't at all, and I think that probably sounds crazy to some people, but I see it time and time again that most people who are thinking of, launching or doing whatever it might be, they don't do it, or they do it wrong because they just overthink the process, do too many things, and just don't really focus on the fundamentals. And of course it depends on what you're selling, but for me it's like our sales process is very simple. It's just make a piece of content, get someone to engage with it, start a conversation, book a sales call, close a client.
So let's break that down, because a piece of content, because your content typically is value driven, right?
Yeah.
But then, because I see you do the shout out on your carousels now, like a lot of the time to start that. So explain to people what a shout out is. When you do like comment me or like comment get.
Yeah. I mean, look, with that, it's more of like, you just can whack a call to action at the end of your posts. So let's say I say, for example, here's how I went from 0 to 100,000 followers in 10 months. And that's the post. Then I'll talk about how I got to 100,000 followers and I give value around it. And then at the end of the post, I'll then just say, DM me the word 100K if you want some more, custom handheld support in scaling yourself to 100K. And like, it's very simple. Just make the call to action relevant to what you're talking about in the post, and people, believe it or not, will DM you the word. So it's like, it's the most simplest thing ever. Now look, it's obviously not, the thing with that strategy is that's for like the 5% or the 3% of people who are essentially, well, maybe more, but it's for the small percentage of people who are made their mind up, they have a problem, and they kind of already trust you to a certain degree that you could be the person to solve it. But the point is that's not everyone you can sell to. As I'm sure you understand, you have like maybe 5% of people who they know they want to go with you, their mind is made up. As soon as they see that call to action, they're on it, right? And they're like the best people to sell, very easy. But then you get people who they know they've got a problem, but they don't necessarily know that you're the person to solve it, but they're actively looking. And that's, say, 20% of the audience. And that call to action can work for them, but not all the time. You've got the other group of people, say 30%, 40%, and the maths might not be adding up here, I'm just kind of throwing numbers out there. But the other 30%, 40% who are people who they don't even know they've got a problem, right? And they're not even aware of anything. And it's up to then your content to make them aware of the problem and then get them into a position where they know that you can solve it. Then you're left with another, let's say 20% of people who, it doesn't matter what you do, they're never going to buy. Doesn't matter what you do. They're never going to buy from you, right? And so I think what most people try to focus on is they always try to sell to the very small percentage. And that's all they market to. They only market to people who have made their mind up. And so the whole point of scaling or launching is that you launch to those people. But scaling is when you're marketing to the rest, when you're marketing to the 70% of people who might have a problem or they might not know they've got a problem. They're on the fence, right? And that's where being proactive is important. So instead of doing a carousel with a call to action like that, instead you just do a story and just say, for example, I'm putting together a free training that's going to help you achieve X goal. And whatever the goal is what you solve in your program. And for people who are thinking about it and they know they have that problem, but don't necessarily want to go with you, they will still raise their hand and ask for that free training. That's then the entry point to have a conversation, see if you guys align, book in a call and close a sale. That's a very simple distinction between a call to action on a carousel for the 5% compared to a call to action on a story for the 30%.
And in both scenarios, this is a mistake that I always see people make, is that they're looking to make a sale from the post. You're not looking to sell it from the post. You're just looking to start the conversation.
Oh, it's always next step.
It's always,
always next step.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's so important you start the convo. You're not asking to say, yeah, I want to buy it. They won't say it. You will not sell a bean.
Yeah.
Especially with what you're doing, which is high ticket, right? So did you, when you done that, so you was like, right, did you say, right, I know the price in my head now, like what it's going to be? How much at the back end did you have ready to, or was it like, I just want to know that I can buy it, sell it, sorry.
Yeah. So the way we kind of teach it is, the offer and your offer and your service, or your offer and your program are two different things. Offer is what you sell, program is what you actually deliver, right? And so I just need to get my offer ready to be able to sell it. So it doesn't mean that when I sell to someone, I have to start there and then. I can sell it and say, okay, we're getting started in 2 weeks' time. And that gives me 2 weeks to get it all ready. And so again, that's another mistake people make is they build the entire program, spend 2 years developing something, go to sell it, and it's like crickets and there's nothing. It's like, well, no, just get an offer in place, try to sell it. If people buy it, fantastic. You've got something that's now validated. You can now make that better and scale it. If people don't buy it, let's make a new offer and try again. And it's just that constant process. Luckily for me, I kind of knew what people wanted, so I was pretty much on the now, whatever you call it, on the head.
I know what you mean.
On the head, you know what I'm saying? No, I kind of got it right from the start and had a pretty decent offer to begin with. But even that offer was nowhere near the level or the kind of the complexity of the offer I now have. It's like when I first started it, it was just a 3-month one-to-one coaching program, 12 Zoom calls, and that's it, right? And that was literally it, right? And I just kind of had to jump on calls, figure out what I was going to talk with this particular person, and kind of go through that back and forth teaching and feedback process. Of course, I planned a few weeks ahead, but no like presentations, no like crazy templates or worksheets or anything like that. I just essentially built a program around what this person needs. And if you're doing your marketing right and you're attracting the right people, then most of the people you're helping are going to have a lot of patterns, a lot of things that are the same between themselves. And so eventually, after you've helped a good enough amount of people, you have like, oh, I've helped 10 people, all 10 of them had this problem, they had this problem, they struggled with this, they had this goal. That's now giving you your framework for your program, right? Now you build the actual program, now you build the videos, the online course, the templates, the worksheets. Then you scale it to group coaching, then you can scale it to a hybrid online course as well. And then you kind of go from there and then start hiring a team and whatever else.
Nice. Okay. So many gems. What is, because there are going to be people going, that's right for you, Harry. You had 50,000, 100,000 followers. Of course it was easy to sell high ticket, mate. Is that a common disbelief? That because I've seen the results you get people and they don't have huge followers. They don't. So talk, is that something that people a ceiling they have in their mind?
Yes, 100%. And this is me kind of being honest and vulnerable here. When I grew from 0 to 100,000 followers, that's what I grew, followers. That was it. They weren't qualified followers. They weren't people who wanted to buy from me. They were followers, right? And so there's a way you can get growth. There's also a way you can get growth and sales at the same time. That's what we now teach. Growth and sales at the same time. Don't have to be separate. You can do them at the same time. And so for me, I grew 100,000 followers. But if I had, if I started now and I had that same success, and to be honest, would I? To be honest, I don't think I would have actually had 100,000 followers in the same time, probably be less, but more qualified. But if I did have 100,000 followers who are qualified, who are my ideal client, or the majority of them, I quite honestly, we would probably have like a, I don't know, an 8-figure business or multi 7-figure. Like that's the point, is that if you have quality of followers, you can have, for example, we have people with like 200 followers who are making high ticket sales. We have people who have 1,000 followers who are making 10, 20K per month. And the point is with high ticket is you don't need massive volume. You don't need massive traffic. If you're looking at average conversion rate on a sales call, say 1 in 4, 1 in 5, which I think is the industry standard for high tickets, or what I've been told. And look, if you've got a 5K offer, you want to make 10K per month, you've got to book 10 calls every month, right? And so it's like logically booking 10 calls a month. And if you've got 1,000 followers, it's not necessarily hard to do that, right? But I don't like using followers anyway. We tend to actually go more of like engagement, story views, likes, comments, because that's actually what you can.
That's the better metric.
It's a better metric to track, yeah. Not so much followers, because like I said, I've got 100,000 followers, but I kind of messed up my following. It's just not qualified. This is a completely different conversation, but from that growth from 0 to 100,000 followers, I changed my niche like 10 times as well. So I've got like people who follow me for branding, people who follow me for marketing, people who follow me for Instagram, people who follow me for this and that. So my following, the actual quality of it, is not as good as it can be. So I essentially, from April last year, like all the new followers from that point onwards, I essentially started again. Without starting a new page, I started again.
You did, but you didn't, because the perception is so, it's everyone, I talk about this, like everyone rates the following. Even the advice. I see gurus giving advice, I call them gurus, right? They're not doing any of this shit, right? And they've got a huge following. People believe it just off the following, not the business experience. There's people in here who I see Chris Doe put a post up the other day about a designer, and he got, obviously rates this guy highly, had like 6,000 followers. Chris Doe's got like nearly 1 million, but he's bigging this guy out. And it's like, followers are not an indication of business success. It's an indication of growing a following on Instagram. But you can leverage it. I almost went backwards because I was selling shit at 1,000 followers. I remember selling like impact and income workshop. People had to do stories. And then I hired Dane Walker to do the carousel game, which was great for growth. But then I just had loads of people around the world that loves my designs. So that's why when I got to 50K, I'm like, I'm literally growing something here that I don't even do graphic design.
Yeah,
I'm talking about shit that I don't even do. Like, what the So I just stopped, and I'm happy now because the video's there, that I enjoy videos. So I'd much rather enrich people that do follow me with the content that I know will lead to something, rather than
100%.
Than just growing a following. I literally don't use Instagram to for any type of growth at all. I don't care anymore. But I'm grateful for the followers, because it is, perception works, right? People do. Unfortunately, they do rank you higher in their mind of credibility when you have more followers. It's just the way the world works. So let's say, would you say, what does it take to be have a high ticket offer? Like what have you seen that works the best to be successful with this type of program?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like you don't have to be a genius. I think that most people think you have to be some sort of guru genius, massively successful in something like no, you don't have to. I mean, I've got a guy called Ray who's from South America who joined us recently, and he lives in, I don't know where it is, maybe like Peru or like somewhere like that. But he's the type of guy, he just lives a very simple lifestyle, lives out of like a hut, he just like enjoys life, travels, just basically he is designed, he does lifestyle design. So he coaches people on how to design their lifestyle to be more fulfilled basically with life. And so he just basically teaches people what he's done for himself in his life, and he's selling it for like $2,000, but to that market in South America. And that, if you know the South American or the Spanish market, it's difficult to sell something high ticket at a certain price point. And so for him, sending that $2,000 to that market is like me sending something for, say, $5,000, right? £5,000. And so, but he's literally just teaching people how he lives his life and how they can live their life better and chase their dreams and be more fulfilled. And that in itself, I don't want to seem like I'm like downplaying that, but that in itself is like, it's not like you have to go to university, get a degree, get a PhD, get a doctorate, so it's nothing like that. It's just, that's his life. We've had people who just help people to eat better food and sell a program for £2,000, $2,000, whatever it might be. And I think that the point is a lot of the times people put a limitation on what they perceive their value to be, but that's not what matters. What matters is what does that person perceive your value to be? What you're providing, how do they value it? And if I price it at £5,000 and someone says, yes, I will pay £5,000, well, they see it as being worth £5,000, right? And so it's like, most people I find, whenever someone has a pricing problem, throw a number out there, 90% of people I talk to who have a pricing problem, they're underpricing. Always. They're never overpricing. Everyone's always underpricing themselves. So I think the high ticket model, you don't have to be a genius, just have to. One thing I will say is with the high ticket is you can't fake it, right? And what I mean by that is a lot of people will build an offer on something that they have no idea about because it's a high ticket niche. And it's like, that's the worst thing to do. Like, just be honest to yourself. What are you good at? What have you done for yourself? What have you done for someone else? It doesn't matter what it is. Even if it's tying a shoelace, right? I could help you sell something about tying a shoelace for high ticket. Somehow, somewhere, someone's going to be out there who will be willing to pay a high ticket for it. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's the point. It doesn't matter what the skill is. We can find a way to position it, put it into a slightly different market. It's like personal training. I think you said you've done personal training. Like for the average person, personal training is worth 30 quid a session or whatever the going price is. But for an entrepreneur, for a CEO, they're paying 20 grand a month for a personal trainer. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like it's the exact same skill. It's just who you send it to, how do you position it, how do you market it. So yeah, quite a lot to unpack there, but that's the way we kind of approach it.
I like it. It's so true about personal trainers because I've had this guy, a good friend of mine. I put this guy onto online coaching, I reckon about 8 years ago. Genuinely, I was like, listen, there's a shift, right? You're charging £25 an hour. Online's the place to go. Like, I actually said an app at the time, I was slightly wrong, but online's the place to go. And he's like, what? People are going to pay you to not train them one-to-one and pay more? I was like, yes, it's happening. Like the other day, come to me, always out for a meal. He's like, I think I might try this online. 8 years ago, and still hasn't done it. And I've paid coaches, online fitness coaches, $350 a month. I think the one I pay now is $175 a month. All they do is check in with me on the app and hold me accountable. I know how to train in the gym. So you're completely right. My stopping point was one guy did pitch me £800 a month. I was like, I'm not rich enough for that yet. I'm not rich enough for that. I was like, you're going to come to my house? Nah. But yeah, it's so true how you position it. Okay, so your program now, right? What I'm thinking, because I'm torn with this as well, right? Because obviously you've got the agency. The agency's doing great. It's nearly at the point where it's self-sufficient. And I love the coaching element. And I've done it before with Instagram, like coaching personal branding. And do you know what I really struggled with? I struggled with detaching from my clients' results. I really struggled with like doing the sessions and then not being invested in how they done, like the output. And what I noticed, I just completely took my eye off the ball with other areas. But I know I made like 60 grand in like 2 months. It was so quick. I was like, shit, I reckon I could make a lot more money than what I'm making now. But even now, I'm torn whether to go down the coach, because I don't want to do it just for the money. It's not about that, but I am torn. And the thing that I want to ask you, doing it as a high ticket, is how do you detach from results, and how are you scaling that? How did you scale it from just those one-to-one sessions? Is it hard? Like, you burning out? Are you feeling you're being torn left, right, and centre? Couple of questions there, but yeah, that's literally on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, to to be completely honest about the detachment idea, me personally, I'll never detach from that, right? And that's like one of those things where I think that's why a lot of people stay away from coaching. You know, it's obviously might be a bit of a barrier for yourself, but I know a lot of people just won't even consider it in the first place. It's like, oh, you know, but what if they don't get results? And it's like, well, it's like a business. Well, what if they don't get results? Like, you know, so it's one of those things where I think there'd be a certain point in the business where perhaps I can detach from it a bit more when I'm not as maybe personally involved. You know, when I have team members in place and I'm not, you know, hands-on 100%, but I still have a very big part in it. I think, of course, once it becomes a bit more automated and, you know, it kind of runs itself, maybe I might become a little bit more detached from it. But for me, it's like, well, I need to be attached. I need to care, because for me, it's like my best clients are the ones who don't get results, right? Because that teaches me what I need to do better. It teaches me how I need to improve the program. And like in terms of now how we transition from one-to-one to where we are now, that's the point. Is when I was working one-to-one, and even now, look, of course, no program has 100% success rate, because no matter what you do, there's going to be a gap somewhere that is a stumbling block for someone, right? Not for everyone, but for someone, for one person. And so just over that period of time, the way you kind of build a program is, you, rather than making assumptions on what you think they need, what you think you should include, or, oh, I've learned this new thing, I'm going to just put it into the course. It's like, no, what are they struggling with? What's the repeatable patterns? Anything that repeats across clients, that is something that becomes a video, becomes an online course, becomes a module, wherever it might be. Anything that people need some more kind of hands-on help, oh, I need to script a video, I need to script a piece of content. It's a template, it's a script. You can do it, upload it. You haven't got to do it again. And so you just basically go based on what are their problems, what are they struggling with, what are they asking me for, build those things, and you'll get better results. You know, and it's like, that's how you then scale and you release yourself from the business. And of course, eventually you start hiring people. And the way we go about hiring, if we're hiring someone for within the business, so more of like a client success manager or a just a head coach, typically we'll aim to hire someone who's been a client. So we will hire our clients to become one of our team members, because they know the business, they know the model, they know the community, it makes sense. So we hire those people, bring them in, they're already aligned, you know, and in that way, the business owner can step away and then focus on the other things, the marketing, the front end, the marketing, the sales, bringing people in. And of course, then eventually, the stage I'm at now is more focused on my content is the main thing. So put out more content. You know, I still only do Instagram really properly, you know, and it's like, it shouldn't be that way. The stage I'm at now, I should be on every platform, 5 posts a day, but that's what we're building up to. But now I've got time to do it because I've hired that team. So doing that now, focusing on managing my team members, watching back sales calls from our sales reps, making sure they're all doing the right things, you know, and so it's more of like it's a process, you know, and I think a lot of people make the jump too quick, or they make it too late, you know, so just having that guidance from someone who knows what to do, more importantly, when to do it, and the sequencing is a massive thing, when to hire someone, when not to hire someone, when to go to group coaching, when not to go to group coaching. Like, a lot of people have the right ideas, but they just do them in the wrong order, and that's still wrong, you know. So, and that's what I say to people: you can do all the right things, if it's in the wrong order, it's still wrong. And so that's where most people get stuck, I think, is they know what to do, but they do it at the wrong time. That causes problems. They get disheartened, demotivated, and then things kind of fall down from there. Moral of the story: just get help. Don't do what we done. Get help sooner rather than later.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I agree. That is you want speed. You want speed, and you want it from people that have got the result. So I fully agree. When curious, right? With the setup, because you're right. When I was doing it, I was burning out because it was 1-to-1, and I was doing the agency. So at the minute, the setup is you have head coaches that you've hired from clients, so they've already won. They already know the results. They already know the program. Like, is it like a weekly structure, and there's certain days for certain topics, like selling? Like, how does it work?
Yeah. I mean, there's no right or wrong. You know, everyone does it differently. But for us personally, we have a few group calls every week. They're all on different subjects. They're like Q&A based, so it's not, you know, it's not like me talking and like no one can ask a question. It's like Zoom calls. You can actually talk to me directly. We also have other coaches who take those calls as well on the subjects that they specialize in. We have a hybrid setup, so there's also one-to-one coaching available. You can book in with other coaches and actually get one-to-one help. There's obviously the DM support, there's the online course, there's all the templates, worksheets, scripts, and everything else you can think of. So we're now at that stage where we have everything, but the point is, I didn't start like this. As I said, I started with literally just one-to-one calls for 3 months, and that was it, right? But now, and this is a struggle a lot of our clients have, is they join our program, see how much we do and the value we give and the support we give, and they're like, shit, I need to do this for my clients. It's like, no. Simple, minimum viable offer, get it out there, work one-to-one, and build up over time. So yeah, there's a lot to it. It's quite a big infrastructure in place now, to be fair.
Be patient. I think it's that early graft, right? Like document. This is why who did I say this to the other day? Guy come to me and he was like, I've got this business idea. Yeah, I'm going to hire a salesperson straight away. And I was like, no, go and sell first. Like, you're going to hire someone you don't know to sell something you don't know how, to manage them on what? Like, you're not going to get... But just put in some graft, get on some sales call, make 100 calls, speak to 100 people first, fuck up loads of times, learn how to sell it, and then you know how to do it now. You've got videos that you say, look, this is a good call, this is what good looks like, this is what shit looks like. But that is the part that most people want to jump. They want to kind of like get around that bit, right? So yeah, that's a big learning from lesson that I just took away from that those 3 months of graft. Because even me, I'm like, oh, okay, I would have to do that. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to cheat the system myself now. I'm trying to do a type form. As you're telling me this, I'm like, because I'm going to launch something next year. I don't know what it is. So I'm just trying to fact find what people actually want through a type form. Really, I should be speaking to them, but I do it in DMs as well. But that's a lesson that I've taken from that. What has surprised you most about the journey you've been on I would say the last year since you've done the high ticket? What's been the most surprising thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what's perhaps surprised me most is that I can, for example, someone can, and this has happened quite recently, someone can find me today, book in a call tomorrow, and become a client. I know that sounds like, again, probably underwhelming, but for me, that's surprising because we're always taught, it takes 7 months to nurture someone. It takes, this many interactions, and it does for some people. But also there are people out there who will find you only if your page and content set up in the right way, but they'll find you and they know just by first look, this is the guy, this is the guy, this is the girl, this is who I want to work with. And it's like, that surprised me a lot that someone can find me, I can talk to them, book in a call, and the next day they're paying me thousands of pounds. So I would say that's what came to mind first. There'll be other things as well, but that's what came to mind.
Mate, I love that. I genuinely love that because people will hear the same build. Oh, you need 12 touch points. You need to have 2 calls set up. You need to do this, that. One thing to note though, that the better your front end marketing, the more value you've put out there, the easier that happens. What Harry just said.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
That doesn't happen it can happen with one post and that, but the amount of effort that's been put into build to that point. But it's true. You can just put a piece of content out and someone can message you off the back of it and you can close them. No, that's true. That's a great point. What's been the most challenging thing about the model so far, of the business?
I wouldn't say it's the actual work, because like I said, I'm not a stranger to working or staying up late and getting things done, so that's not an issue. So not the work. I think what's been difficult is it's a kind of the personal development that's required at its different stages, and especially when you scale pretty quickly, it's like you're running before you can walk kind of thing. It's that kind of situation. It's like you kind of throw yourself in the deep end, and there's positives and negatives to it. But I think that's what I've struggled with. So for example, over the past year, so from January onwards, is when we've been really like scaling our team, and I've never built a team ever in my life before, and so it's like kind of learning that process, not just actually the logistical of how to hire a team, but actually how do you manage a team? How do you deal with your emotions when someone's not doing what they need to do? It's like you get annoyed, you get frustrated, but actually most of the time it's because you've not explained something right. It's on you. And I think that is what's been the hardest bit, which I think most people forget about, is it's not, you can't like outscale yourself. You can't outgrow yourself. You have to kind of get yourself to a position to then be able to go beyond that. And that in itself is a hard process, because it's constantly redefining who you are and like getting rid of, kind of like shedding your skin. You're like removing the identity you are now to become someone different. And I think a lot of people don't like the idea of that, but it's essential pretty much. As long as your core remains the same, the exterior's got to change.
Fucking sick. So fucking true, man. Oh, so true, bro. So true. I also think
clip it, put it on Instagram.
That is a fucking clip. That's getting clipped, guys. You'll see that on socials. 100. It's so true, though, man. And people avoid the change. I hired this girl out of pain. Bless her. My fault. Didn't give her any onboarding. Like, I give her onboarding, but like, here's all my problems. There you go. Can you please help me? Oh man, and like a year later, it's just wrong. I've just done it wrong, just terrible, and I always feel guilty about it. And then that just showed me I'm actually shit at this team game. This team building game, I'm actually not the best. So it's like one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the last year. No one really talks about that importance of that team. Have you noticed that? Like on this whole like social vibe, like this whole, no one really talks about like how you look after your people, and it's all very like I'm the boss. So I hear people talk about like attracting talent. I hear that sometimes, but this is what another one I've learned. Like I hire quite a few people from all over the world, but I've got some super amazing people in India that are working with me at the minute, like unbelievable. And the amount of people, like the amount of time they say I can't believe how you're treating me, or like as in a positive way. It's like I was like, well, what else is it like? Because I've never built a team.
It should be the standard.
And they're like, well, yeah, people just don't. They talk down to us, and they just bark orders, and then I was just like, that's fucking shit. Like, imagine that. And these guys are talented. Like, they're talented like crazy. So yeah, building team is so important. Well, you're not going to scale without it. You can. There are ways, right? But typically, you're not going to scale without investing in that team. Yeah. And unfortunately, it takes your time, your energy, your emotions, and your money.
Yeah. Well, I think that the point is any option does. It's just you put your time elsewhere. Team, you put your time into your team. But if you're building something passive, people see, for example, passive income. Don't get me started on that. People think it's all, roses and sunflowers sort of thing. Like it just money falls out of the sky. Well, no. You save time in the delivery of the actual service or product, but all the rest of the time, you still have to put the time in, but just somewhere else. Marketing, content, so it's like, it's not like you can cut corners. It's still the same amount of time, just put it elsewhere. And anyway.
It's a pipe dream, isn't it? That whole passive income. It's there's always an investment, man. There's always an investment or sacrifice, without a shadow of a doubt. Even with this, I've been looking into digital products for my missus, and selling digital products on Etsy just to give her, because she's got a party business.
Yeah.
And she's still going to have to invest on all the digital upfront, all the digital stuff that she's going to have to create. Like, but they're pitching it like it's a passive income. It is, but you're still going to have to invest like 40 hours of getting this shit ready, or 30 hours, whatever it is. Like, that's gone. Yeah. So it's a complete and utter pipe dream. What if you had to start all over again right now? Because there will be people at the start point, and you knew you was going to go down the high ticket route. Let's say you're on Instagram. Yeah, you haven't got the other platforms dialed in yet. What would you say is like, give me the first 3 steps that I need to do?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think the first thing is trying to just, we start with offer in our programs. We always start with helping you build your offer. Now, If you're completely starting again, you don't necessarily have to build the offer, but you have to have an idea on what direction you're going in. And so I think that's more a case of understanding yourself, understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, and that is sometimes a tough conversation you have to have with yourself. And it kind of depends where you're starting out at, because if I use myself as an example, when I started my personal brand, I had some skills, but I don't think I quite was ready to, for what I sell now. I would not be able to sell it for the same price when I started. So the point is, I had to spend a time of basically 12 months of like learning, practicing, proving myself before I could then sell it for that price point. So I learned a new skill I could then sell. But for most people, they actually have a skill they already have that they just don't think they can sell, but they can sell it. And so the first step is identifying what that skill is, whether it's a quality you have, whether it's a skill you've picked up, it can be anything. Most people have something they can sell. So first is finding what that is. Once you know what that is, I don't like the idea of doing too much like market research. I think there's some you can do, and it's useful to kind of go around, have a look at other people in the space, see what content they post, see what's how they do things, what they offer, kind of see what the going rate is for the offer. Like, yeah, that's all useful stuff to do, and it's worthwhile. But I think from that point onwards, it's just start posting content. Just post what you think. Go on TikTok. It's probably the better platform to do it. You can get quicker feedback. Go on TikTok, get your phone out, and literally just, what am I thinking of? What am I doing today? What's this lesson I've learned? And just say it. Doesn't matter about whether it's structured the right way, or you've got a hook, or you've got editing. Just put something out there, and you're essentially then just getting validation for what you're talking about. That's the second step. Do that consistently. And then the third step is, to be completely honest, it's repeating step 1 and step 2. To be honest, it is repeating step 1 and step 2. Eventually you find something that works, that people are resonating with. And at that stage, that's when you can start looking into building a business, or like actually selling something. But what I kind of recommend is, look, that process of what I've just mentioned, figuring it out for yourself, if I'm honest, took me 4 years, right? From when I actually started the very first page, it took me 4 years to start my personal brand and get to that point. So if you're willing to wait 4 years, and the opportunity cost of that, by all means, wait 4 years, do it yourself. But that comes back to ego. If I could do it all again, I'd get help from the very start, because at least then I can figure it out for myself while still having someone help me at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. You can do both at the same time. And so, yeah, figure out what you want to do. Ideally, get someone to guide you along that path. And realistically, if you're starting from scratch, you can be up and running with a business, a very decent business, in say 3 to 6 months' time, if you've got guidance. On your own, it's much more difficult.
Amazing, man. Harry, legend, mate. I really, really appreciate you joining me and dropping the gems that you have. Where can people find you? Don't just give your IG either, because we're trying to build our YouTubes out here, right?
Yeah. My Instagram is at the Harry Needham. I had to pick that name because my actual just regular name was taken, so it's not like an ego thing. I had to pick that.
So fucking annoying when that happens.
But yes, at the Harry Needham. YouTube is just my name, so Harry Needham. And yeah, just on other platforms. I am on like LinkedIn and TikTok. I don't use them as much. It'll be one of the two names, either the Harry Needham or just Harry Needham. Type it in. If you're not sure how to spell the surname, Needham is the best way we say it. So that's how you know how to spell it.
Need some ham, people.
Yeah.
And before we jump off, right, just an opportunity to, like, a shameless plug. If there's anyone listening that needs help selling high ticket, like, who is this for? Like, give you a little elevator pitch.
Oh, you put me on the spot now.
Doesn't have to be an actual pitch, but like, like if you are struggling, from my understanding, it's like if you're struggling to sell high ticket, and you're I don't know what the Finibobs are. I'm not telling you to do an elevator pitch. You know what it is. But who do you want hitting you up if they listen to this and they need help?
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, I mean, look, whether you're a beginner or whether you're already established as a business, that's not the point. Kind of who we help are people who want to, or who are either like, you're a coach, you're a consultant, or like a service provider. If you're in one of those three industries, or you want to get into one of those three things, then we can help you in terms of how we help you. We basically help you to build, market, and sell your high ticket offer all organically using Instagram. That is our speciality. We build you an entire system, or help you, I should say. It depends on what stage you're at. But we help you build an entire organic marketing system around Instagram and help you build out that high ticket offer, and get you to let's say a decent place in your business within the next 3 to 6 months.
Boom. If you need help, guys, legit, works. I've seen the testimonials, I've seen the results, and I've seen him do it for himself. Harry, you're a legend, mate. I appreciate you joining me today.
Likewise, appreciate it.
Thank you, mate. Check him out, guys. Peace.